Let's go through some of the United managers, and this is what I would bring to the table with management. And if they were your teacher and the players were his students, right?
Okay.
For Sir Alex Ferguson, you know he wants you to get all A stars, and he's strict as fuck, but you listen to him because you admire him, you admire what he does, you admire the way he does things, and you know that if you follow him, you'll be at the top of the class.
Yeah.
Right? With Ollie, you know that he's one of those cool teachers. How are you? You all right? Yeah.
Bringing in sweets.
Bringing in sweets.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Not asked. Take your time, whatever. Ragnick was just one of those supply teachers you go mad for. But I think Ten Hag, if he was my teacher, I'd listen to him, but I'd still ask about in lessons.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is Off the Bar, brought to you by Green King Sport. Joining me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Joe Smith. How are we doing?
Very well, thank you.
I see you've got a little notepad there.
Well, I'm going to need it.
All your notes. Yes, you will, because this is a very special edition of Off the Bar. And we've also got Mr. Joe McGrath.
Yes.
How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I've been training for weeks for this.
Yeah.
Letting Joe have it in a minute.
I like the facts, right? We're going to get into a debate, yeah? The Erik Ten Hag debate. Should United keep him or not? You've brought some notes, you've been doing research, you've been proper looking into it. You've just off the cuff, turn up, know what I want to say, don't need all that nonsense.
To be fair, yeah? Joe did try and call me twice today, which is unusual for Joe.
Yeah. Right.
And I guess during that call he would have said, I'm making notes for this debate. Please,
I'm all tactics, no vibes.
Yeah.
Joe's all vibes,
all vibes, no tactics.
You know what? I'm just hoping you help me out along the way.
Don't
Joe.
worry, I think it's safe to say I'll help you out.
Cheers, Jay. Cheers, Jay.
So me and you against this loser.
What are the sides then? What are the teams? What's going on here?
So, in the red corner, we've got Joe Smith, who says that Erik Ten Hag should be given more time at Manchester United. He should be the manager next season for Manchester United Football Club. And in the other red corner, we've got Joe McGrath, because no one wants to be in the blue corner, who says Erik Ten Hag, he's done, he's finished, he's washed. Those are the words he used.
I'm in the brown corner. It's got that red, it's brown. Yeah, but I don't want him sacked like straight away.
No.
But I feel like at the end of the season, it's a nice time for the curtains to close.
The Ten Hag experiment is over.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, you've had a couple of seasons. You delivered, hopefully, 2 trophies, probably 1. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that
Au
one,
revoir.
the FA Cup does throw an absolute curveball in the argument, because you would say if you go against City, they may have been Premier League champions by then, and you can beat them at Wembley. You show a little bit of progression, so it kind of stuns my argument a little bit. But I'm going to pretend that we get beat again.
But we don't have to pretend. You can add a little caveat, but we'll get into all that anyway. We've got some categories. Make sure you're getting involved in the chat and comment. At the end, we'll let them make a sort of a case for why they think they're right at the end of this debate, and then you guys can let us know who you think was right. So the categories we've got are transfers, turmoil, which just means some of the issues that Erik Ten Hag has had to deal with, dramas, bare dramas, man management, tactics / style of play, results, and alternatives, the other options to Manchester United, because you have to consider that when you're thinking about whether to keep or get rid of Erik Ten Hag. Who else can we get? So let's start with transfers. Erik Ten Hag, I'm going to throw this out to you, Joe. I'm going to throw it in the form of an accusation.
Great.
Erik Ten Hag has not had a fully successful signing yet.
Oof, great question, Jay.
I think you can only judge the true success of a signing over the length of a contract, really. I think, there's plenty of players who came out of the blocks looking great, who turned out not to be great. Dozens of them throughout Premier League history. United have had a fair few of them as well. And the alternative is true. You have plenty of players who start slowly and come good and get better and better and better, and who end up being some of the best players in Premier League history. You don't all just start amazing and end amazing. We've been lucky to have Bruno Fernandes, who hit the ground running, has pretty much had dips along the way, but has stayed there. But for every Bruno Fernandes, there's someone who comes in and scores 6. Like, look at Michu at Swansea. It was incredible. Look at Papi Cisse at Newcastle. Like, he arrives one of the best players in the world, but for 6 weeks. And people go, he's amazing, this transfer's perfect. Look at, there's all sorts, like Gordon at Newcastle at the minute. He started very slowly there, and now he's looking like one of their best players. It goes both ways. I think what we've seen of Martinez has been excellent. I think what we've seen of Malacia has been an acceptable left back who you signed for, what was it, 14 million quid?
Something like that, pennies.
I think
in modern era.
Yeah, we've seen a player in that range. I thought what we got from Casemiro last season was exceptional. This season has been very poor, I'll admit that, but I don't think that he was Ten Hag's ideal signing. Højlund, I think, has been overall a success. 14 goals in all competitions for a bloke who's played, under 100 professional games, and is now being expected to be United's number 9 in a team that doesn't supply number 9s very well, I think is pretty good, especially for his age. Onana, I think he's getting better as the season goes on. The one that stands out, the real killer, is Anthony. Obviously, that's the one that even me sitting here isn't going to say, look how great Ten Hag is. Anthony's been world class. He's been really poor. And he's only got worse as time's gone on. He started okay, and it's got worse from there. And for the amount of money we've spent, he's top 10 most expensive Premier League signings ever, I think. It's just not good enough. And he knew him from Ajax, and that's the one that every manager has someone that sort of, if they're going to get sacked, there's a player that's almost glued to him when they leave the door. Yeah. And Anthony will be the guy that takes Ten Hag out the door. Maguire, I think, was the one that took Solskjaer out the door. I think maybe even Pogba sort of cost, and Lukaku cost Jose in the end as well. Everyone has it. Everyone has the person where you go, you're getting sacked, and your failure to make this work is one of the big reasons why. So I get it. One thing I do think needs mentioning, sorry to go on.
It's all right. You're taking all this time.
I am taking time. You're going to get time.
I'm just going on.
Because he's moving his conversation forward, I'm allowing him. If he was reiterating what he's already said, I'd stop him.
Yeah,
go on.
14 transfers Ten Hag has made that aren't backup goalkeepers, because I'm not counting them as anything, because they're often brought in just for their nationality, let alone to play games. 14 transfers he's made that aren't backup keepers. Of those 14, 6 of them are either free transfers or loans. That's over 40%. Nearly half of all the transfers he's made are essentially emergencies. Players who they've run out of contract elsewhere, or people didn't fancy him in the, someone like Christian Eriksen, who I think overall has been a successful transfer, by the way. Or it's people like Sabitzer on loan, Weghorst on loan. We've had Reguilon, another one, Amrabat, another one. Players who he either maybe wanted to sign on a permanent and couldn't, or who were alternative to the people he actually wanted. By comparison, if you look at these, are, if someone's free or on loan, typically that's because there is something going on there that's not ideal. By comparison, you look at City, since Pep arrived at Man City, they've made over 50 transfers that weren't backup goalkeepers, right?
I get your point. No, it's fair, because I've called out the fact that last season we got Weghorst and Sabitzer when we were fighting on four fronts. Well, right, to be fair,
Joe, just made that point.
Sorry, I'll just do what I'm moving forward, because it's been a very long time. At this rate, we're not going to get through.
What's the little point
Pepper's made 50 transfers.
We're not going to get through these topics.
It's not Pep in or out, is it?
This is who we're trying to emulate here. Pepper's made 50 transfers. One of them was a loan or a free transfer. That's the difference.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. He's made a lot of points there. I was quite harsh when I said they've not been wholly successful, because I think in a way they haven't, but they've been. Yeah. He has made a lot of good signings. Martinez for me is a very good player.
100%.
Rasmus Højlund's a very good player. Andre Onana's a very good player. I just think we're waiting to see whether they're going to have a career at Manchester United. So he has made some good signings in the transfer market. And like Joe says, he's not always got his main man. He wanted De Jong. We know that. He didn't get him. Yeah. At one point, I think he wanted Adrian Rabiot, which some people scoffed at, but that's the player he wanted. He didn't get him. He's had to make do with these loan moves that Joe's mentioned. Do you think that because of the way we've had to cut corners in some respects, that not all of his transfers have been as bad as
you make out? I think some of the transfers are either like impact transfers that you get the best out of the player there and then. So, for example, Casemiro's one of them. You get him at sort of his peak, and he did brilliant for us last season, but now he's tailing off a little bit. And then there's the long-term plan of Ten Hag spending money for if he's United manager 3-4 years down the line. That's Onana embed himself in a little bit. He's getting better with every game, and I love him. There's also the looks of Højlund as well, who, we mentioned how many goals he scored. It's great. 14 goals in all competitions is all right, though, considering most of them, was it 5 in the Champions League, and we got knocked out straight away. So I think he might have been better spending that chunk of cash on a Premier League player or a Premier League striker or a person who can get us goals when it sort of matters. And I think Højlund is definitely one of those long-term prospects. I really like the lad, but I just think he needed someone for right here, right now. And I think that's why he spent a bit of money on Anthony, because he was with him at Ajax. But that's not been a great success. And we've not even mentioned Mount yet. No. £60 million straight away. We signed him. I remember, was it June, coming to end of June last year? I don't know whose signing that was. We seemed to get excited about it because we were getting our business done early. But then that's just sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit. I don't see him ever starting a Manchester United.
Is that his fault, though, if Mount's been injured? I get your point, but he didn't buy him thinking he's going to be injured. He bought him for a reason. If a player gets injured, And he hasn't got a terrible injury record, Mason Mount. Can you blame the manager?
But was he great when he wasn't injured? And is he good now? I won't get anywhere near my starting 11 anyway, unless injuries really came and bit us in the arse. Apart from that, I do think that Anthony is that big sort of the shock. With the sort of amount of money we spend, I don't think Ten Hag's to blame for that one, because I believe that you read rumours that in the upstairs, they were like, after the shocks of his 2 first defeats in the Premier League, they're like, we need to do something. Ten Hag's gone, Anthony, and then they've gone, fuck me, 90 million. It's like, oh well, that's a waste, isn't it? Now, so transfers is iffy for me, because you can point certain players out and you go, we haven't got the best of them. But is that because of injuries? Like Martinez, what a play he might be.
Yeah, I love Martinez. I'm not going to say nothing.
But at those moments when we kind of really needed him, he's not been there for us. So if you're sort of taking it on face value, probably not been a success, which is other circumstances' fault. Anthony's not been a success. Onana will be, but he's not been a success this year. Mount's not been a success. Casemiro's tailed off. But you've got little players on a free who become cult heroes. Johnny Evans back. Vegas last year was a bit of a cult hero, and though I think by the end of it we all hated him. But for those,
I didn't mind Vegas.
For a couple of months he was all right, but when it got to May, we were playing City, and we realised we got Vegas.
His quality got shown up eventually, didn't it?
So I don't know. I mean, if we had Martinez firing off cylinders for 2 years, and he was the captain of this football club, Bruno and him could be great captain and vice captain, and if Højlund scores more in the Premier League, then you're probably just edging it over to a successful period. But I think personally, it's not. I think there's more negatives in that list than there are positives.
Would you say there's more negatives than positives?
If you're looking, I think if you're looking at overall at I don't feel like we can accept loans and free transfers as much. Certainly loans, it's like, did they do the job you wanted? Vegas did. Yeah. Even though I wouldn't call him an amazing transfer. If we'd spent 20 million, I wouldn't call him a success. I think Malacia has become a negative, but that's injuries, and I feel bad blaming that on the manager.
Injuries is a big part of this argument, isn't it?
It's been a negative, but that's injury related. Casemiro's overall been neutral, maybe nudging on a negative now. Martinez has been excellent when he's played. Anthony, again, is obviously the big negative. I think Højlund has been a positive, and I think Onana's just edging positive as well.
Yeah, so I think if Højlund's got another striker alongside him, you look at it as a positive. But unfortunately, we spent a good chunk of money on someone who's going to have to really grow into their game and then get goals as the years go on. Yeah. We needed goals now. Yeah. So I'm not saying Højlund's a negative, but I'm saying maybe a £70 million striker proven, the age of 26, 27, probably would have been a better shout.
Can I just ask you one question, though, because you made a point of what I put it to you. You're saying some of these players, by your own admission, might end up being very good. Would you not stick with the manager that brought him in then? Because we keep doing this at United. Well, not necessarily, because Jose Mourinho come in and he didn't want the players that Louis van Gaal had signed, and he made that pretty clear straight away. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came in, he didn't want Lukaku, he didn't want Alexis Sanchez. Erik Ten Hag's come in and he's done a similar thing, getting rid of a load of players that he didn't want, that he inherited. Do you think there's any value in keeping Erik Ten Hag because of some of the players he's brought in that he obviously rates? Or do you feel that that's, like you said, irrelevant because they could be good for the next manager?
I think he'll be good for. I think some of the qualities in these players are mature and got their head screwed on. Martinez, I see that in Onana. I see the hunger in Højlund as well. So I think for whoever they'll play underneath, they will always put. But I get what you're saying. Yeah. But and we'll get onto it a little bit later on. You're right. There's been certain things that Ten Hag has adopted, certain players that he's adopted that have just gone now, and you look at what they're doing elsewhere and. You question who's really at fault.
We'll get into that then. Right, let us know what you think in the comments about the points that Joe and Joe have made.
I thought it was 50-50,
I think it was pretty even, to be fair. I think you both sort of made a good case. Yeah. Like, you both sort of made a point, and it's difficult because I feel like a lot of these signings, like I keep saying, the jury's out on them. I don't think the bad sign. There's a lot of players on that list who I think are mint, but I think there's the flaw because of injuries or they've had bad spells or whatever. Like every podcast, this episode of Off the Bar is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game.
Make Green King your choice for the final stretch of the season. Why, Jay? Good question. Because they've got over 900 venues across the country, so you're always within walking distance of a Green King Sport.
Let's be honest, watching football is far better with your mates. So get the squad together and get down to a Green King Sport pub where you can check out every single televised live Premier League game, whether it's a relegation six-pointer or the race for Europe.
We don't even need to mention the title because it's just not good news for Manchester
No,
United. But if you want to watch that, you want to watch City or Arsenal win the league, they do that as well. And also, don't forget to book in advance because the Euros are coming this summer and you can book your table for that now. So make sure you go and check out Green King Sport. And also, if you go and download the app, there is exclusive announcements, exclusive competitions. The link to that is in the description. Thank you once again to Green King for sponsoring the show. Now let's get back to it.
Let's talk about the turmoil then. You've both touched upon it. Erik ten Hag came into a team that had disaffected Ronaldo. He didn't want to be here. I don't think that was Erik ten Hag's fault.
Yeah.
I think we all know Ronnie wanted to leave, and he made that pretty clear before the manager had even been appointed. The Mason Greenwood situation, I don't really think you can blame Erik ten Hag for that. You might argue, well, he obviously gave the green light to bring him back into the squad. He must have been consulted, but he inherited a mess there, for want of a better expression. The Glazers were the owners and the complete owners when he arrived. He's had more or less almost nothing but Glazer ownership until the last month or so, since Ineos have started flexing their muscles. Joe, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Do we have to give this manager a little bit of credit or a little bit of leeway because he's inherited a mess and there's been a turmoil, or does he have to take some responsibility because you can look at him and go, okay, the Sancho situation, he's not maybe, they could handle that better, or are you just, because you're sticking up for him, saying, no, do you know what, he inherited a mess and he's done the best he can?
I think all those things you mentioned there, Greenwood, Ronaldo, the sale, Sancho, I think he's done what he should have done with all of those things. Yeah. I think there's no option with Ronaldo other than he clearly wasn't fit after pre-season, and it's acceptable. There's varying reports on why he wasn't there pre-season. Some of them obviously sympathetic towards what happened with his family. Other ones that he'd fallen out of love with Manchester United and didn't want to. Whatever it is, he wasn't fit enough at his age to be playing week in, week out for Man United. Yeah. So he didn't play him. Ronaldo kicked off, did one of the most unprofessional interviews I've ever seen from a current player of any club.
Agreed.
And then had to leave. It wasn't just like, oh, you got to sack him. Ronaldo basically sacked himself for not playing games that he wasn't playing well in. He was very poor at the start of that season, missing chance after chance after chance. Greenwood, the worst thing for me is the flip-flop back and forth with it all that Ten Hag was part of. So I'll give him some blame for that. He wanted him back, and then the fans and other people and the media and all that pushed back against it, so then he's gone. But he's gone now, and we don't talk about it, as in the club don't talk about it. One reason because it's very sensitive, but two, because we're trying to move on and do different things. I think that was handled by Ten Hag not very well, but I think the overall outcome has been a successful one. The club sale, he's constantly said, whoever the new owners are, I'll work with them. He's never picked sides. He's never slagged off the current owners. He's never made himself the victim in all this of, we've had all this turmoil. I've not heard him mention that once as a reason why things haven't been working out at United. And not that he should, but, it could easily be, it's been a very tumultuous time for the club and these conditions are difficult. He hasn't said that, and I respect that. And the Jadon Sancho one, people want to sort of rewrite it because he had a good game against PSG last night. Yeah. But Jadon Sancho was poor for Manchester United more often than not.
Okay.
And that's, you don't start every week. Maybe you're on par with Anthony or this, that and the other, but it wasn't like Jadon Sancho was brilliant for United and he dropped him for no reason. It seems like from the outside in, he was trying to help him, gave him some time off, allowed him to come back, and it didn't work out. Then another public falling out. Maybe you can question why are so many people falling out with him? Yeah. Why are so many players doing these public things? Is that a problem with Ten Hag? Maybe it is. But I think the overall outcome of all of those things that you mentioned have been positive and the right thing for Manchester United, and I think he deserves some of the credit for all of them.
Joe, what do you reckon then? Because he's, there's no denying that working under Glazers is difficult. The Ronaldo situation, like I said, it looked like he was already 1 foot out the door on that front. Do you think we need to be a little bit
I'm giving Ten Hag
patient because of these things?
I'm giving Ten Hag the thumbs up for how he's dealt with the club turmoil. I can't argue with some of the points Joe made there. You look down the list of Ronaldo, Greenwood, and Sancho, and you think, how would people have done it differently, and how would have that affected the club long term going forward? How would Ronaldo throwing his weight around in the dressing room affected the young players and affected our results going forward? How would Greenwood being on the team sheets and team lists? How would that affect not just the actual performance on the pitch, but Man United in general? In terms of every single turmoil, he has dealt with it very calmly and I think very professionally. And I can't. There's little things you can pick apart. Maybe what's his relationship like with players, and I think we'll get onto that. But Sancho, everyone thinks that he's best thing since sliced bread again. I just think maybe there's just something with him and United. We wanted to become one, didn't we, for so long, and then when it actually happened, I just didn't think the spark was there.
I know for a fact though, right, because you're kind of agreeing on this point, there will be people in the comments, and I've seen it online already, who are saying Jadon Sancho, though, a good manager would have worked with him, would have got the best out of him. Like that's a point, and it's been made not just by just faceless internet trolls. I've seen Darren Lewis, who's a journalist I respect for one, who's sort of said that man management plus Sancho equals fire. Do you see any argument to that? A good manager might have said, look, this is a complex character. He's obviously got some issues, and the way he trains or whatever works is different. He did it for the first season. He sort of accommodated him. Could he not have gone that one bit further? I'm not saying he should have. I'm saying that there will be people that that are asking that question.
He may have seen something happening in the dressing room that was just too much for Ten Hag to handle, and he may have caused disruption and be quite influential with the sort of younger English players that we've got in the dressing room for Man United. And I wonder, is that sort of what's happening in Dortmund? He doesn't have that sort of sway in Dortmund. He's still obviously well known and well loved, but people look up to him, you might think, as a bit of an idol when you come into United change rooms. And if he's kicking off and causing a little bit of a stir, maybe Ten Hag just like...
Was it fair to do what he did though, make him train with the Rezzies and eat his lunch with...
I think so. I think like, if you look at the Sancho situation, and I understand one argument, if you accommodate and pander to everything that Jadon Sancho needs to be a top player, he'll be a top player. But then you have to think about how that affects how you're treating everyone else. That, some managers are willing to do that. Knock on his hotel room door at 8 in the morning because otherwise he'll be late for training. We heard reports of this happening at Dortmund. One of the people who supposedly did that is the current manager of Dortmund back when he was a coach. So I get why that would work. But if you're not the type of manager who's up for that, that doesn't make you wrong or bad. And it doesn't make Jadon Sancho wrong or bad. I said it months ago about Sancho. I think his problem is he's too much like a normal bloke. He's a bit lazy, and sometimes he can't be bothered, and sometimes he wants to stay up and play Xbox. Like, that's what everyone's like, but that's not what the elite of the elite, intense, obsessive athletes are like. If you want to be at that top level, and Ten Hag wants players like this, and he doesn't want players like that. That doesn't mean that he's wrong or that Sancho's particularly wrong. Sancho just needs a different type of manager.
I kind of agree with you, and I don't hate on Jadon Sancho. I don't hate the kid.
No.
I think it was a big mistake the way we went around getting him. He didn't put him in a position he didn't want to play in, not realising these issues that he had. And then obviously it's not Jadon Sancho's fault, but we changed the manager and all the rest of it. And it's obviously he struggled under that spotlight, like you mentioned, Joe. He's never been at a big club before he got to United. He's been at City and Dortmund. It's completely different. You come at United, it's huge. And that pressure and that
I do wonder
attention, it's different.
I wonder if the Sancho thing would be 10 times worse if we didn't have a player like Garnacho coming through at the right time and we were left with sort of...
We'll get to that then, right? So I think, let us know in the chat comments. You're kind of agreeing a lot there, to be fair. I think we all, whether you like Ten Hag or not...
Because I'm giving him turmoil.
There's no denying that working under the Glazers isn't pretty. So I think we can all sympathise with that, although there will be some debate about how he's handled certain situations. Let's talk about man management then. Because there's been a lot going on.
He gets questioned here a lot.
He does get questioned a lot. And I think part of the problem is in press conferences, I've said this, people say, well, do you know, have you ever been in a press conference with him? Well, yeah. He can come across as not cold or aloof, but just a little bit matter-of-factly. You call him stoic.
Yeah.
I like that word. You call him stoic.
Straight.
Yeah, not always dead charismatic, which is fine if you sort of getting results, but when you're not, people start questioning that. He's had the Marcus Rashford trip to Belfast situation. You've had Garnacho liking social media posts. I think we've had Amad Diallo being a bit cryptic as well. You've had what went on with Ronaldo and sort of the criticism there, the Sancho criticism. Rumours that the players are unhappy with the training regime. On the plus side, though, there was the way he handled that after the Brentford defeat, going for a run with him, 13k I think they did. There's also the way he sort of, at first, got credit for handling Jadon Sancho, 3 months in the Netherlands, let's get him playing to the levels he can play. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Whilst there are criticisms that I think are valid, there's also times when he does deserve a little bit of praise. And also, just on Marcus Rashford, we mentioned the negative. This season's been a disaster for him. Going to Belfast, just all the rest of it that's gone on with it, putting on social media how unhappy he is with the abuse and everything. He's not a happy chap, and he's not playing anywhere near his best levels. The first season, though, Erik was the manager that got 30 goals out of Rashford. So I don't know, where do you stand? Obviously, you back the manager. Do you think he
Yeah.
deserves credit for his man management, or is it something, if you're being brutal and he's go, okay, it's not his strongest trait?
I think it's not his strongest trait, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's this horrendously difficult bloke to get along with as it seems. And obviously this is all an outside perspective, but it's my opinion on it.
Yep.
I think, like I said, last season was Rashford's best ever goal scoring season, and I think that a lot of that goes to Marcus Rashford. I give him most of the credit for that. But then you have to create an environment where that's possible, and Ten Hag helped do that. I think that since then, though, we've clearly seen some sort of breakdown. I don't know if it's between Rashford and the manager, or Rashford and his own performances, or his team. I don't know what's going on, but Rashford isn't happy. People aren't happy with Rashford, and a lot of it is rightly so. He's not playing very well. So whatever's flipped, whatever's switched there, I would have liked it to have been able to have been fixed by the manager. We see with Solskjaer. I think Solskjaer is maybe the best man manager we've had in terms of keeping a happy dressing room since Sir Alex. I think he was excellent at that. I think is by far his strongest suit. But I also don't think that Ten Hag is quite as rigid and army-like and sort of mean as people are now like to paint him. Like in his press conference today, he's laughing and joking with the journalist, telling them they need better sources and smart. And we saw footage of him dancing with Martinez and people after the Carabao Cup final. We've seen him dancing with his players at Ajax. Like, he's not someone that's like some horrible headmaster who, as soon as the game ends, he walks down the touchline and shouts at you for winning. He is someone that can enjoy the good times, but maybe I don't know if it's a language barrier, but I don't think it is, because even when he was at Ajax, there were reports that he's a little bit, this is how it is, why you straying from the line, I can't understand why anyone would think differently to me. So I do think it's probably his weakest point, but I don't think it's this big, massive problem that some people want to paint it as.
Can I bring in is it an analogy, right?
Yeah, I don't know what you're going to say, so I have no idea.
Imagine, let's go through some of the United managers, and this is what I would bring to the table with management, and if they were your teacher and the players were his students, right?
Okay.
Sir Alex Ferguson, he wants you to get all A stars, and he's strict as fuck, but you listen to him because you admire him, you admire what he does, you admire the way he does things, and you know that if you follow him, you'll be at the top of the class.
Yeah.
Right? With Ollie, you know that he's one of those cool teachers. How are you? You all right? Yeah.
Bringing in sweets.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Not asked. Take your time, whatever.
Yeah, you can have a ride in the Mazda if you want.
Yeah. Wow. Fucking Ragnick was just one of those supply teachers you go mad for. But I think Ten Hag, if he was my teacher, I'd listen to him, but I'd still ask about in lessons.
Right, okay.
I'd still go, he's all right, this guy, but so I don't know if he's got that level of respect. If he's the teacher and the students are the players, where if I go, would you do this? And maybe you go, yeah, of course I will. As soon as he's back to
it does feel a little bit like that.
It feels a little bit like, so Rashford's gone to Belfast and he's like, where were you? And he went, oh, I'm sorry.
You're like, I've got to give you detention, and you turn up for your detention, it's all fine.
Yeah. So I don't know, there's that level of sort of the grip he has. I think maybe he thinks that he's got this really tight grip on his players, but I worry his communication skills are a little bit lacking, so when his back's turned, everyone just thinks, fuck it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good comment. I think it's a good analogy as well. Let us know what you think in the comments. Let's move on to tactics and style of play. This is the big boy. The biggest stick that's used to beat Erik Ten Hag is this lack of tactics or a lack of style of play. Excuse me.
What's up there, Jay? You all right?
I'm shocked by this topic. I nearly choked on my words.
It's okay.
Or the wrong tactics.
Yeah.
Joe, I'll start with you. How do you defend the people that say, and we've said it ourselves on certain points, like the tactics were wrong, or I'm still, I'm 18 or almost 2 years into his tenure, struggling to see what his style is. Why are we not seeing the Ajax type of football that we saw under Erik Ten Hag at Old Trafford? Even when he spent a little bit of money, I know he's not had all the transfers, but he spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
What's going on here? What would you say to those people that are questioning it and criticising it?
Firstly, I do admit that we aren't as developed and as structured and as clearly kind of identifiable as I'd like us to be after 2 years.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not going to sit here and go, it's all great, what are you on about, lads? The results and performances, a lot of them this season have been horrendous. And this whole thing of, basically, I don't know if you've noticed this, well, I'm sure everyone has, whoever we play, that's how good we are. Like, we make a hard game out of every match. We could play a team in League Two and it'd be 1-1. We could play a team in the Champions League and it'd
Newport
be 1-1.
County.
Yeah,
Everyone has shots.
Everyone.
We had 4-2 against Newport County, 4-3 against Liverpool in that
Everyone
cup
has
run.
20 shots.
Yeah.
Every
It's
game
crazy.
is a close game where we have 20 shots and they have 20 shots. We actually do a decent job of creating chances against the big teams as well. I know we've had a few batterings in his time as well. But typically speaking, we rise to the level of teams we play that are better than us, and we completely capitulate to the level of teams that we play that are worse than us. And that is unsustainable. But I do think there's a few things that people are either sort of forgetting or sort of purposefully overlooking. I think the Ajax comparison is valid in that he's clearly someone who knows what the fundamentals of tactics are. He said in the past that we're not going to play like that. So maybe this idea we're ever going to look like them, we can throw that away. But what we can't throw away is like a tactical foundation that he must have. Like, this is another analogy, but like, you know, people always talk about artists, like the people who do weird art where you can't tell what's going on. Do you know what I mean?
Until the end, like
Neil Buchanan.
When you zoomed out, it was like a dog on a beach.
You can see where art connoisseurs.
Yeah, exactly. That.
Pissing up a tree.
But to do that, you have to have a knowledge of the basics, of the fundamentals of art, to then twist it and to play with it and to mess about with it. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Nah.
This idea that Ten Hag's gone from someone who clearly knows
What do you mean, nah? Yeah.
I don't know. He asked me, I was being honest. I sort of get what you mean.
Yeah. Anyway,
I get it.
Good.
Like when Neil Buchanan used to use the salt, and and then
to
he'll blow
you,
a bit.
it looks like one thing, but he knows what he's doing.
Salt.
Yeah? What we saw at Ajax, there was countless articles, videos, podcasts, presenters on TV before he came to United. Ten Hag is a tactical genius. Ten Hag is this on The Athletic, all over the place. Coach Voice, wherever you want to look, they're there. You can go back and look at them. He clearly knows what space is. He clearly knows how to create chances. He clearly knows how to defend. And
so what is going wrong?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know enough to tell you exactly what is going wrong. And for me, it involves a little bit of a leap of faith, which I wish I didn't have to have. But I don't see a bloke who is all of a sudden gone from knowing how to not concede 20 chances a game to thinking it's acceptable to have a huge gap in the midfield and never changing it. I do think that he's working towards something, and I think the injuries are such a big problem that if we'd have seen a full strength team, and maybe one that was slightly better than the one we've got as well, we would see a version of this team that is a lot better. And like, look at Liverpool last season. They looked shocking. Look at Brighton this season. Shocking. Look at Arsenal the first 2 or 3 years under Arteta. Really up and down. Overall, eighth place finishes more often than not. All of those managers, Klopp, De Zerbi and Arteta, are clearly tactically knowledged. They clearly know what they're doing. But when things aren't quite right, things can look really bad. And I feel like last season has given him a lot of grace for me in that we were building towards something. And he hasn't just forgotten all of that overnight. I just think these injuries and other things, like we've mentioned already, off the pitch, have been such a bad factor. Plus his man management, which isn't great, and all of a sudden we're seeing terrible things on the pitch. But I do think he can turn that around.
If he's given more time, which is what the argument is, the argument is he shouldn't be sacked now. The argument is that he's coming to a conclusion at the end of the season. What happens next year? Because Does he change certain stuff? Does he buy certain players in? Because you'd say some midfield changes are needed, but I just don't know. I just don't know what he does from the end of May to starting again in August.
Yeah, and I think we have to get the right players in. We have to have people like Martinez, like Shaw, fit for most of the season. We haven't had a left back that's sort of a permanent left back at Man United fit for most of the season.
Do you think there's any danger? And this might sound ludicrous, but just hear me out. That because of the way United are, and because of what happens with managers at United, we've ruined him a little bit. Because I've seen he's not a 37-year-old coach. He's 53, I think, isn't he? Yeah. So he's not a kid. Like, he's been around a long time, and he's got a pedigree. That's why he got the job. But we've seen it with other managers. Like, Jose had a pedigree. And I know Jose does it a lot, but he lost the plot. Yeah. Like, Ollie at one point looked like I'll save him. But towards the end, he looked like he climbed out of a skip. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Yeah, he looked terrible. Like, it was Van Gaal's different because he was always mental, but
he loved it.
Yeah,
he was the least touched by.
Yeah, he was just constantly
he
insane.
Started one guy and he ended.
He was. In fact, he probably the one that bizarrely seemed to enjoy himself when it was all going Pete song. Yeah. But every manager seems to lose it a little bit. And do you have any concerns that is because a lot of what you reference, and I hear you, was his first season, what he did at Ajax. He can't be that bad. but there's a chance he might have declined a bit.
Yeah, I don't.
Just because of the pressure, etc.
I get that, and I think that is possible.
Yeah.
And there is a chance that it's just the right guy at the wrong time, and his reputation amongst the dressing room is so far gone that it can't be recovered. That his vision for United has become so muddled with the injuries and our inability to play out from the back at certain times, our inability to find chances in the final third has been so muddled that it can never be recovered. I think that's possible. But I don't think that he's forgotten that if you leave a 40-yard gap in the middle of the pitch with opposition players in it, you might concede chances a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the principles of football that have stood for decades, even pre kind of hyper tacticalisation of football, you don't leave massive gaps. You play compact. These things have existed for 100 years. I can't imagine he's forgotten them just because Rashford went and had a few drinks.
People worry a little bit about his in-game play as well when stuff goes wrong.
When you say people, do you mean you?
Me.
Own it. Don't say you're here to make the argument that his time's coming to an end. You can say, I've had enough.
3 up.
I'm the adjudicator. I'll say people. You say, I am sick of this.
When we're 3 up
why
against a championship side,
substitutions I'm
I can still see them getting back into this game because, and then Ten Hag is on the sidelines, and I think, what is going through his mind? What is going through his thoughts? Does he see when they've got the first one, Coventry, or when Chelsea were getting back into it, when there was the dying moments of the Burnley game, where it's like fucking keep the ball? What was going through his head, and was he able to communicate that well and project his thoughts well enough to make sure that we got through to the FA Cup final in better ways than we did, that we beat Chelsea 3-2 and help us push forward, that we don't draw at home to relegation side Burnley? What is going on?
Yeah. Some of it, I don't know. Some of it is indefensible. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, no, it was what you're on about. The only thing I'll say to that is, there was a point where, like Rodri, he's lost it now because he lost to Real Madrid, whatever people say.
Well, you can't count that, apparently.
Yeah, you don't count that. There's a point where Rodri had won 65 games in a row that he played for City. The 5 games that he had missed in the Premier League in that time, they'd lost them all. Injuries and personnel are a big thing. Yeah. And you look at the people who were bringing off the bench a lot of the time, and it's not even a quality thing necessarily, but sometimes it is. But we're bringing off players who are 18 and 19 in Garnacho and Kobbie Mainoo. These are the sort of players who should be coming on. Yeah. These are the sort of players who should be getting 20, 30 minutes here and there to build them up as players. They're the mainstay. They're the first names on the team sheet. They'll start 35 games in a row. And the people you're bringing them off for either never play, aren't good enough, or are children. And then you go, oh, why couldn't we hold on to a lead? Well, obviously the Coventry one, you just got to do it anyway. Yeah. But sometimes you look at the players on the pitch and you go, well, they're just not good enough.
What do you think those dressing rooms are like after a game like that?
Horrendous.
What do you think 1-1? What do you think but is Ten Hag going, shouting and screaming, going, that was shit?
He doesn't strike me as someone that is
everyone going off. I'm going to upset the teacher again.
I think it's almost, I don't know, it seems like everyone's just deflated. He seems deflated in his post-match press conference. Yeah. And I think the players, if you're at that Chelsea game, for example, you played in that match and you've just sort of gone 2-0 down, got it back to 3-2. In the 98th minute or whatever it was, something stupid, you still lost, 97th, you're winning. And then you lose the game in the manner in which you lost it as well. I imagine it's just absolutely horrible to be in that dressing room. I don't think there's anyone who'd be trying to be positive. You just be like, oh my God, this.
But is it not let's not do this again?
But also, sometimes people can't help it.
But also, as well, for every time we're going, let's not do this again. There's an opposition going, let's do it to them again.
Yeah. But so it's like, oh, the guy who's on a hat trick, we're going to leave him unmarked inside our 18-yard box in the 97th minute. That no manager in the world should have to tell footballers. Cole Palmer their best player by a mile, who's ripped us apart this game, he's free by himself inside the 18-yard box from a corner. Let him take a touch and have a shot without getting near him. That shouldn't even require coaching. And yet, here we are.
Yeah, we are. Well, that sort of moves on nicely to my next one.
Lovely. Same one.
Yeah. Shut up, you grass. Okay, no. Results. I mean, this is the mixed bag of all mixed bags, right? I have never, in all my times watching Manchester United, seen such a disparity between the results that one manager has got us.
It's crazy.
We have had a 7-0 loss to Liverpool, of course. Let's get the bad one out of the way. We've had a 4-3 win over Liverpool. We've beaten Barcelona. We've beaten City. We've beaten Arsenal. We've also lost to City heavily. We've lost to Arsenal. We've had results against poor teams or bang average teams like Brentford, of course, where we've had our basically backsides handed to us.
Bournemouth this season.
Bournemouth, Fulham. And then we've had other games where the Old Trafford's been absolutely pumping as we've dominated Spurs last season.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're making the case that Erik Ten Hag is the right man to carry us forward.
Yeah.
How can you ignore those bad results though? Because I'm guessing you're not going to sort of sack him because of the good results. But some of those bad results have been so bad.
Yeah.
Like I remember me and you. I think it was me and you, but for the City game where at half time at the Etihad, I honestly thought this could be 10-0.
Yeah.
In that first game. How would you sort of not ignore it, but stomach it?
Well, yeah, like the Liverpool one is, we're going to hear that result for the rest of our lives.
I think
like
that's the sad thing. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever. We need to beat them 8-0 to stop it.
No,
I don't think we will.
Yeah, so Liverpool beating us 7-0 will be something that Manchester United fans hear about until the day we die.
Sorry, it's not funny.
It's not funny, but it's fucking awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, like you said, it's not like it's great and then it's really bad and then he's gone. It's like it's really bad, it's great, it's really bad, it's great, it's really bad, it's great. Like we'll lose 7-0 and then I don't remember, but like we'll lose a game badly and then 2 weeks later we'll beat Arsenal, or we'll lose and then we got battered by Brentford and Brighton. And then we beat Liverpool straight after at Old Trafford. Like it's mental.
It is
mental.
Even this season, like we get absolutely like dominated by teams. Like Brighton look way better than us every time we're playing. Bournemouth absolutely control games against us, and then we'll beat Liverpool and basically derail their whole season.
We've done the double over Villa. And I'm not going to say those performances were great, but we got the results.
Yeah, but it was great day at Old Trafford, wasn't it? Boxing Day.
Beating both times, in the league.
So can you identify things in those teams that why we beat them and why are Bournemouth great against us?
We really struggle against Brighton. We struggle against high pressing teams that we don't really respect, I think is what it is. I think when it's Liverpool or whatever, we sat back at Anfield and let them do it and just held on and tried to counter attack. But I think Brighton were like, oh, it's only Brighton. Oh shit. Bournemouth, another one, they play good football and they press really high. Brentford, the same. And we go there and we'll beat these. I think there's a mentality issue, and the manager has to instill a stronger mentality in players.
I agree with that. I agree with the mentality thing. I think you see it from the opposition teams as well. They grow into a game against us when they realise, hang on a minute, this is United in name only almost. Yeah. We can actually go toe-to-toe with these.
But just as a stat, he's got the second best win rate of any manager at Manchester United, any permanent manager in United's history. Only Sir Alex has got a better win rate than him. So he's not terrible, but we are sixth, which is about as bad as United ever finished in the Premier League. It's bizarre. I think the one thing that, for me, is a very big check at the side of his name, 3 cup finals in the last 2 seasons. That is good. And the FA Cup as well. We won the Carabao and we didn't win the FA Cup, but 2 FA Cup finals. The FA Cup is difficult to win. United have only won it, twice in the last 25 years or something ridiculous. Like, it's not easy to win it. And yet, here we are again in another final. So that is a big positive for me. The idea that we're constantly challenging for trophies, even if the results in the league have been woeful this season. Obviously, I'm having to overlook a lot and talk round stuff, but I do think that challenging for silverware is a good thing.
He makes a good point about challenging for silverware. We've been, we've won a trophy under Erik Ten Hag. We hadn't won the one. Was it the 6 years previously, since 2017, since Jose's first season? We are in a second successive FA Cup final. We obviously had that big result against Liverpool in the quarter final, which derailed their season and ended Klopp's farewell tour, which was great. Is he not making a case that some of these results, despite the fact we've had bad ones, there have been some good ones?
Yeah, but come on, Jay.
All right. You're making a case of getting rid of him, so I'm not going to make it for you.
It's interesting because if we don't win the FA Cup against Man City, what have we played them? We've played them 5 times already under Ten Hag. 3 last year with obviously 2 Premier Leagues in the FA Cup, and then 2 this year. Got battered in both of them. Absolutely wiped the floor with at Old Trafford, and then the Etihad this year was carnage. If they beat us again this year, out of 6 times of playing Pep Guardiola, the top manager that he should be aspiring to be, he's lost 5.
Can I just say one thing though? And I don't want to do his job for him, and I understand it. Like, I hurt as much as anyone when we lose to City, other than my mate Tom, who hates him more than anything on the planet. But if you scratch beneath the surface of some of those games, is it the manager's fault what De Gea did at Wembley? Is it the manager's fault that they're bringing on Phil Foden, who's got 17 goals this season, and we're bringing on Wout Weghorst?
You've got to get ready for that.
And Garnacho. Is it the manager's fault at the Etihad this season? You've got Marcus Rashford apparently wasn't 100% fit. Johnny Evans wasn't fit, started, and then came off. And then we had to put Amrabat in defence because we run out.
Yeah, but that's the manager. The manager's got to do what he's got to do.
Has he not been a bit unlucky with the injuries and the fact that you're going up against a City team which is one of the greatest teams, unfortunately, of all time? I'm just asking you because I hate losing to City, obviously, but I do feel like I don't know if even Sir Alex, with the players that he had at his disposal for some of those games, could have got. I don't think Sir Alex would have.
He could have done better. I mean, that whole game at Old Trafford this year, there's no excuses there. We got absolutely pummeled. I mean, the penalty in the first half won it. Haaland buries that. We go in at half-time, 1-0 down. Ten Hag's got his players for 15 minutes, sorry. Let's get fucking out there and go and give it to them. Straight away, they scored two.
Do you know what? Boom, I will give you the one.
It's like, well, hold on.
I'll give you the one at Old Trafford, I think, was pretty defensive.
I understand.
I didn't even get the taking Amrabat off decision, if I'm being brutally honest.
I understand.
But I understand some
that.
of them, at least, I feel like, look at the state of the squads, man.
Yeah.
Like, even Fergie lost to City, and I don't think...
2v1 here, Jack.
No, but do you know what I mean? I do feel like some of those City games...
every single result and be too happy with it. If we don't win the FA Cup this year, what were those epic 4-3s all about? We'll still have that moment of class in our mind. We'll still remember St. Patrick's Day 2024. But will we have anything to lift up at the end? No.
I think some of it, though...
It'll be for nothing.
Yeah, but you're assuming we've lost.
Scouse tears and not nothing.
I'm saying... Probability says.
But the reason probability says that, one of them is that, we're struggling and they're not. But the other reason is probability says City will probably win because their squad's way better than ours. They've won 5 of the last 7 Premier Leagues. Like, we aren't as good as them. So more often than not, the team who's worse loses.
Can I ask you
if anything, tips the balance.
But to win a game against a team that is better than you, you have to either get lucky, hope in that you play really well and they don't, or your tactics have to be better than the opposition's. All that Pep has to do is just hope that the playing field that he sees before him just plays out how it should.
Ten Hag's the one who's got to overcome something. Right, so
I'm not.
Overall,
there's certain results I'm saying that are inexcusable. Like the Liverpool game is inexcusable. I'm just saying, and I think the 6-3 at the Etihad, Varane getting injured earls, but that was a poor performance and not good enough. But there's some games where I can see it and go, I'm not blaming the manager for that one. I'm not blaming the manager when I look at the team sheet and I go, Jesus Christ. And then during the game he loses players.
Just to disagree with myself here, I almost think the games against the big teams, whilst we've got this terrible away record that needs addressing, they're less worrying to me than the Brentfords and the Bournemouths and the Wolves and the Forests. Like, they're the ones where I think, like,
disgusting.
I understand that you don't just beat every team that's lower than you in the league, because if you did, then whoever wins the first game of the season wins the league. But, like, you've got to at least look better than them more often than not. A lot of the games we've won against bad teams have been despite the performance, not because of it.
Here's what happened in the first season. Decent at home.
Very good at home.
Away,
not decent,
away.
Very good at home.
Very good at home, shit away. Here's what's happening in the second season. Shit home and away. So you tell me what's going to happen in the third season?
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
I mean, what about the away record? The away record against the top 9? Shocking.
It is shocking.
We want to beat them, don't we?
Do we?
We do. We do. Listen, I think some of these results have been absolutely unbelievable. I don't mean that in a positive way. So I do get your point. I just feel some of them maybe you can give credit or a little bit of leeway. Let me know in the chat in the comments whether you do or you don't.
Your job is watch-alongs, right? How many watch-alongs have you really enjoyed? Like
this season.
When you asked me to do a watch-along, I think, fucking hell.
Yeah.
The first hour was great.
So do we.
The first hour was great, and then the next 2 hours is carnage.
Yeah.
You don't know.
It's just that moment. It's those moments like the one against Wolves that you live for.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll put up with 95 minutes of absolute dross if it gives me that little
shit I got
winner.
for that little thing I said against Chelsea. We were 3-2 up.
Yeah.
2 minutes away from 3 nice points, I said.
Did we clip you up or someone else did?
Someone else clipped us up.
Oh, yeah. Well, sorry.
95th minute, Joe.
We're slacking there.
Got beat.
I know. I was watching it.
Ronaldo Brown had just said to me, "We'll be all right. We'll do this." He said it. I think we'll do this. He just finally got enough confidence, and then chaos ensued. All right, finally, the one. Just on results. Sorry, let me just quickly. If he wins the FA Cup, would you be in 10?
Do you know what? If he wins the FA Cup, it tips over the balance just slightly because it will all be worth it.
Okay. Alternatives. This is a common argument by people that want to keep Erik ten Hag.
Yeah.
Is the fact that there ain't many great alternatives out there. There's not a standout candidate. You go back to 2016, Louis van Gaal was going through a time of it, losing to Stoke, losing to Norwich, losing to everyone. Bournemouth, I think, again, ironically. Jose Mourinho's been sacked by Chelsea not long ago. Long ago, he'd won the league.
Yep.
Obviously, won 2 Champions Leagues, won 3 titles in the Premier League. It was obvious he was there and he was a good candidate, so that's why we got him in. There isn't a Jose out there now. There's some decent options though. Joe, I'll start with you. Is that keeping Ten Hag safer? Do you feel that could be enough to keep him safe? The fact that, yes, there's some good managers out there, but there isn't one where you go.
Jesse Marsh on the.
There wasn't one there.
I'm going to talk to them about that list after we finish, by the way.
That's the craziest list I've ever seen in front of us. Big
just,
Sam Allardyce in all capital letters.
It's just, honestly.
It's one of their funny jokes, that
No,
list.
they egg each other on as well. Yeah. Like,
absolutely embarrassing.
Put Allardyce. No, put Big Sam Allardyce.
Yeah, put it in all caps.
Yeah.
That is funny.
The alternatives are currently not great, are they?
No, this is the...
Right, let's go through some of them then. Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah, well, the issue with him is he's just had an absolutely disastrous season with Bayern Munich and has been sacked because of it. And that's what we're going to pick up, someone that's just failed at Bayern Munich. And because he's doing all right in the Champions League, people are now it's almost like because he lost the league to Leverkusen so long ago, he gave up this 10 titles in a row so long ago that now we've almost forgiven him for that. Like, no one fails with Bayern Munich.
Can I just ask you a similar question to what I asked him? If he won the Champions League, I know it's a big if he wins the second Champions League, would you feel different?
But that's like obviously it's better than winning the FA Cup. I'm not saying that, but he's had the Bayern equivalent of the season Ten Hag's having now.
Yeah.
Like Bayern always win the league, and if you don't, you certainly don't give it away with 6 games to go. I know Leverkusen have had a stunning season, but you beat them early in the season. That might change that. Like
he's had a torrid time of it at Bayern, because last season was it final day? Dortmund threw it away basically.
Yeah, Dortmund threw it
winning.
away.
There's nothing Bayern Munich can do to catch him, and then they draw.
They drew at home,
right.
and I think he's been a little bit unlucky. There's obviously stuff going on there. Teams can't just win the league forever. But I do think he got sacked by Chelsea slightly wrongly, but they weren't doing great that season. It wasn't like he was third and they sacked him.
I'm almost at an opinion, so I get your point, but just to ignore everything that's gone on with
and I can accept that for sure.
It's just such chaos. It makes us look normal.
He's someone as well, though, that when he leaves clubs, at the moment he leaves them, there's always an argument. There's always been a falling out. PSG, the other fans weren't keen. He fell out with Leonardo. Chelsea fell out with Burley. Bayern is falling out with everyone there. And then 2 or 3 years later, everyone goes, well, wasn't that person he fell out with so unreasonable? Like, I get it, but if you're constantly falling out and leaving places, the ultimate place to come if you want to fall out and lose your reputation is Man United. I don't think we need someone like him. I think he's decent, and I think if we got him, I'd back him, and he could win us some trophies.
Sorry, forgive me if you did but you're not going to be budged if he manages to win the Champions League. You still feel the same way.
I feel it would obviously make me think he's better than I currently do.
You still prefer Ten Hag.
I still wouldn't want him.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
The other options available, I'm not going to go through all. We'll go through sort of the ones that sort of evoke the most emotion. Gareth Southgate.
No.
No, not for me.
Thank God for that.
What do you think to Tuchel, by the way? Sorry,
there's a certain sort of manager who has sort of like players. I feel like they've got the best out of their careers, and now are on that spiral down where they might have good seasons here and there, but to spend a long tenure at a club, I just don't know if Tuchel is the right man to even just look at the last couple of years on his CV.
Because we need to move forward then, right? You've put your sort of flag in the ground and you're saying, look, I want Erik Ten Hag as my manager next season, yeah? Out of the list, who's the... Because you're saying get rid of him.
This is the downfall of my argument.
Who are we bringing in then? Because you've got to count have no manager.
It's a great question.
It's an obvious one, though.
Can I give you a couple options that you might not think of? Luis Enrique, I know you can't necessarily get him, but maybe the year after you could. He's got 1 year left at PSG, but he's doing very well, so he might not leave. Hansi Flick is one that's former Bayern manager, won the treble with them, had like an 83% win record with Bayern, and yet isn't really mentioned at all because he didn't do that well with Germany. But he's someone that maybe might be decent. I don't know.
I just think the thing with Ten Hag, and I think this is the case with Ineos, is whenever they have replaced certain people, especially at the top of the board, they've replaced them with someone who is by far better.
Yeah,
and I just don't know if they've got a better candidate for that.
So you want Ten Hag on, but you personally, you're saying you can't think of anyone. They'd have to find someone.
They'd have, yeah.
So you're saying you want rid of him, and there's someone out there you just don't know who it is. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying.
But it's right. It feels like there's
your job isn't to hire Manchester United managers.
The main great managers are already in stable jobs, but there could be a possibility of Ineos splashing some cash.
Pick someone then. Pick someone.
Is there anyone out there that you go?
Because otherwise, it is just I don't like him, but
is there anyone?
You fix it.
If you could have wave a magic wand and not
getting?
fucking Pep or someone stupid like that, who are you bringing in? Who do you think is better?
Like, let's say you could get Simeone, or
would you not go for Alonso?
No, I mean, I said wave a magic wand. I shouldn't have said that.
You said you would wave a magic wand.
No, but he said he
magic
is. He said it. This.
Yeah, well, change his mind then.
Right, out of the candidates there that you can see on that list, is there anyone there that you'd have over? And you can throw Luis Enrique in. You can even throw Luis Enrique in.
Not Steve Cooper.
People are getting sacked over that list. Don't look
at that. Not that one, the other one. The one next to it. The one that's not.
Out of all of them, can we zoom in a little bit, please?
I'll read it to you.
I go with Hans Flick.
Yeah? Hansi Flick.
Hansi Flick.
The fact you don't know his name doesn't fill me with confidence in your reasoning, but fair enough. You've gone with Hansi Flick.
You look at all the others, you think, no, not really.
Man like Zidane?
Zidane, yeah, but I feel like he's
multi-Champions League winner.
But he's the main character, isn't he?
One of the GOATs. No.
Would you have him?
No.
Who would you have on that list then?
Well, I wouldn't get rid of Ten Hag, mate. But if I had to pick someone from that list, I'd pick Tuchel.
Would you?
Yeah.
Would you pick Tuchel as well?
If it's that list,
from that
for me
list,
it is, yeah.
I'd either pick Tuchel or Hansi Flick, I think.
Yeah.
I just think the other ones are just fairy tales that won't come true. I think
Gary O'Neill.
Southgate.
That's
just
not a fairy tale.
No, it's in for Ineos. Getting the England manager.
No. And no disrespect, Gary O'Neill. He's a good coach. I don't think he comes in to manage Manchester United. Right, you've both got 1 minute. Yeah, and I am going to just stop you when that minute ends.
Okay.
Right, so I'm going to give you a minute.
What we're doing in that
And
minute?
you're making your final case. You've both gone through, we've gone through everything. We've gone through transfers, turmoil, man management, tactics, style of play, results and alternatives. Now, it's just 1 minute to stake your final case as to why Erik ten Hag should leave or stay. You can go first, because he's gone first pretty much every round.
Yeah.
Right, 1 sec. When I start, you go. Right, ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Now, I don't think this is an argument really criticising Ten Hag. I just think at the moment, with his credentials and what is good about him as a manager, isn't fit for Manchester United right now. And it doesn't mean that he won't go on and be a success elsewhere. I see his transfers being subpar, but quite possibly it will change when the new board is in. But I just think if the results are getting worse, his man management isn't up to scratch, we need someone with a stronger head to lead Man United forward. Because if we finished in 6th or 7th place this year and find ourselves playing Europa League or even worse, the conference, then you need someone in the season after to protect the players, to focus more on the Premier League, to get the best out of players that we've already signed. And that for me just isn't Erik ten Hag. I think his time at United should close.
Nice.
His time at United should close.
Like Google Translate.
Yeah, you're 58 seconds there.
Yeah,
I panicked at the end.
Yeah. You don't have to do the full minute if you don't want to.
No,
All right. I thought it was you were like, look at me going, you're 5 seconds.
No, I was giving you a little heads up because I would have cut you off when you got to the minute. You don't get more than a minute.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry. So you get a minute. Joe, you're not having his extra 2 seconds. You just get a minute, all right? So you give us your case as to why Erik ten Hag should be the Manchester United manager next season. Go.
I think Ten Hag's a good manager, and I think that all the other good managers we've had at United have had a similar fate, a similar routine, a similar template. You come in, you do well, things look good, and at the first sign that things aren't right, the first bad season, you're gone. And we're rotating and we're spinning through managers, and it's been 10 years now since we won the Premier League. Next thing you know, it'll be 20. Next thing it'll be 30, and we're Liverpool. I just think that we've seen Ten Hag in the past do very good things at Manchester United. He overachieved last season. We saw what he did at Ajax. He was exceptional. He knows tactics. He clearly knows how to set up a team. The fact that we're not seeing it at the moment isn't very good for him. But I don't think sacking him, bringing in a subpar alternative who, at the very best in Tuchel, is going to last 2 years and fall out with everyone and leave himself. Ten Hag needs more time. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Give him the length of that contract. Otherwise, why did you give him a 3-year deal in the first place if you thought, if it ain't working in 2, we're going to get rid of you, keep him for another year?
And that was bang on the money, that was. Well done. Good points by both of you. You both made great cases, to be honest with you. Yeah. I thought, I understand where you're coming from, even though I was a bit disappointed you didn't have a manager up your sleeve, but
I forgot about
you did have Hans Flick. And also, a predisposition to side of you anyway, because I want to see Erik ten Hag stay, but I can understand why people don't. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. Who was right? Who won that debate? Did anyone convince you? Did you think that Erik ten Hag should go and then Joe's convinced you that he should stay, or the other way around? Let us know what you think. Make sure as well you are hitting like, share and subscribe. A big thank you to Green King Sport for sponsoring this podcast. You two are on the Sloppy Joes, aren't you?
Yes.
With our very own Ethan.
We debate stuff more like, what's the best chocolate bar on there?
What is the best chocolate bar?
Star Bar.
Star Bar.
Grow up. Or double decker.
Double decker? Mate, they get left them in the old tin. Not a chance. What was yours?
Well, I like the orange twirl. And the what's the other
orange twirl?
What's the other one?
The one that you get from IKEA. What's that called?
What? Furniture?
Dime.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Furniture.
Furniture.
Right,
It's
wrap
not
it up.
nibbling on a fucking Billy bookcase, is it?
On that bombshell, we're going to leave it there. This has been Off the Bar. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. That's been Joe Smith. That's been Joe McGrath. I've been Jay Motty. Thanks for watching.